Yeah, the vision for Gloucester Services started nearly 25 years ago with local residents talking about how they wanted to make change happen in their community. They were particularly fed up of government regeneration programmes that came and went and really had very little legacy for our communities. And so the idea was to try and think about how we could turn something that was a problem for the areas nearby, where with the motorway causing congestion, pollution, costing public services $1 million every time there's a fatality on the motorway, and all the traffic coming through our local areas, to turn that problem into an asset. And we recognise that there's 40 million people going past our communities every year, and we thought there must be a way to make something of that. And so the community came together, local residents and the residents group, and came up with this vision for a motorway services area. We had a look at the motorway, and we were trying to influence motorway policy actually at the time, so that social enterprise was valued in the reorganisation of motorway service stations. And we realised actually the site right next to Matson was a really valuable opportunity for commercial businesses. So we went to talk to the people who owned the site, who happened to be two local farmers who we knew quite well, because we'd worked with them on other community things in years gone by. And we chatted to them and came to an arrangement and took land options so that we had an opportunity to develop the site within the next 5 years. And actually, we couldn't have taken those land options without the support of Summerfield Trust, who stood behind us at a time when we had no money. And just securing those land options cost us nearly £100,000 in legal fees and other fees. So we secured the land, and then we needed a business partner to work with. And that was a tall challenge from our point of view. It was a tall challenge because almost 95% of the motorway services at that time were owned by a triopoly of moto, welcome break and road chef. And we always used to say that if you put a blindfold on and went up and down the motorway and into a motorway service area, if you took that blindfold off, you wouldn't know where you were anywhere in the country. But there was one service station which really had a sense of locality about it, and that was the tea-based services in Cumbria. Now, we'd never come across those, but we were fortunate because one of our community partners was an organisation called Cooperative Futures, who gave us business support and business advice, and they had a connection that enabled us to go and see Westmoreland. So back in 2007, 2005, we went to meet with John Dunning and his daughter Sarah, the two generations of the family that ran that business, and we started a long conversation about how we could bring this forward, perhaps as a partnership. So it took several years, and again, Summerfield Trust were really important in standing behind us during this period. But by 2009, the end of 2009, we'd come up with a partnership agreement where we were both shareholders, both had a stake in the business, and Westmoreland bought the capital and the knowledge of running similar motorway service areas, and we bought the energy, the land, the site, and the opportunity to recruit local people. And that was how our partnership was formed. We then went to seek planning permission from the local council, which in this case, although it's called Gloucester Services, is just inside Stroud District. And we were the first motorway services after a long fought campaign to be approved through the local planning committee by democratic vote, rather than being called in by ministers or civil servants to be pushed through the planning system against local opposition. So it was a controversial planning application, but what was really important was that local people believed in what we had done, our reputation locally, our reputation for delivery and for support and community services, and they also believed in Westmoreland and their connection to local food. So that was an irresistible proposition from the point of view of the planning authority, and that's what helped us get planning permission. Of course, when you think you've won, you haven't always, and we did have a period of nearly 2 or 3 years after that where all those big multinationals with deep pockets thought they could outspend a small family business and a charity with no money. So they challenged us endlessly through the High Court and through the Court of Appeal, trying to judicially review our planning approval and then trying to appeal against their lack of success in that process. But it did delay us coming into being by 2 or 3 years. But eventually we started building in 2013 on the northbound side, and northbound opened in 2014. And then we moved the builders straight across to the southbound side and built that in 2014, 2015, and it opened then. So it's been quite a journey, sometimes in the fast lane, sometimes in the slow lane, but we've got there and it's been an amazing experience, and we really couldn't have asked for better partners than Westmoreland. Yeah, Robbinswood Hill is where all of our target communities, where we've created this project to benefit the communities that wrap around Robbinswood Hill. So there's a horseshoe of communities: Matson, Robbinswood, White City, Podsmead, Tuffley, Chequers, Parry Hall, all wrapped around Robbinswood Hill. And we aim to reinvest the money that we generate for communities back into those communities. And what that actually does is creates a virtuous circle around the hill of communities connected to business, connected to nature. Well, the reality is for us is that Gloucester Services wouldn't exist without the support of the Summerfield Trust. They were key supporters of our community when we were coming up with this idea and trying to create this vision and bring it to reality. Summerfield Trust stood behind us all the way and were really fantastically supportive of some of our early costs, which as a small organisation with no income, we really were unable to meet. So it's absolutely certain and clear that Gloucester Services would not have existed without the support of Summerfield Trust, and we are forever grateful of them, and I often describe ourselves as son of Summerfield because of that support. As well as providing financial support through the Summerfield Trust, one of the other key things they did was share their experience and knowledge. So we were able to bring community leaders and social entrepreneurs to the table, but we really needed some business acumen as well. And that was why the role of the Summerfield chairperson, Charles Fisher, was so important. He really brought the business knowledge to the table to help us make sure we negotiated the right deals with the right people. Charles was a fantastic person, and as well as being chair of the Summerfield Trust, with a bit of persuasion, he became our first chair of the Gloucestershire Gateway Trust, and guided us through those early years when it was so difficult and was such an unlikely proposition for many people. But we got there in the end, and again, we would never have done it without Charles and without the Summerfield Trust. And so Summerfield have helped us not just financially, but morally and with really great business advice as well. So Gloucester Services has really been constructed through a community charity and a business coming together in a partnership. Those kind of partnerships are almost unique in this country. But also the way we approach our local producers. So we have 130 local producers within 30 miles of this site who all supply us. And many of them have grown with us. So they start as small tabletop producers and then they grow. So for example, Cinder Hill, who are based in the Forest of Dean, who produce our sausage rolls, were just two local people who wanted to have a small holding when we first started 11 years ago, and have now grown to employ 16 people, and they're also selling on to other premises. So the product is so special there and so local that we find a lot of other businesses come in, and it's a great platform for local businesses. It's the busiest tourist information centre, and of course we employ between 400 and 500 people as well as making financial contribution to our charity, where we receive between 2 and 3p in the pound from everything that's sold here apart from petrol. And that enables us to invest hundreds of thousands of pounds into our local communities. So it's a fantastic partnership. It works well for business and it works well for the communities, and it's almost unique. Gloucester Services has been an absolutely amazing project. It's a fantastic partnership between business and charity. We couldn't have found a better business partner than Westmoreland. So it's worked really well, and in every target that we set ourselves, we overachieve. So we said we promised to create 300 jobs, and we're employing between 400 and 500 people here. We promised to use local producers, and we're using over 130 local producers within 30 miles, and then a whole range of regional producers as well. We promised to put money back into the community, and we're overachieving in the amount of money we've generated for community investment. Just this summer, we've hit the £5 million mark of money that's been generated by this business to support local communities. So in every aspect that we had hoped for, we've overachieved. None of that would have been possible unless the Summerfield Trust had helped us at our most vulnerable point with the craziest of ideas, but it's really worked. And we needed people to believe in it at that time, and the Summerfield Trust did.